the basics now. So there I think it's P2D2 white. So we'll get to start first of all. What are tokens in Python? Okay, so we have dealt with the things. So we know everything about the Python now, how it has been originated, and all these things. So we'll start with the knowing of what are tokens in the Python. Okay, so you can make notes from today. Okay, so the smallest individual unit in a program, basically, the very smallest unit or individual unit of a program is called is known as token or a lexical unit. You can say it. Okay, so if I write it as whether for introduction, if I write it as for, let's say, if I write it as my tokens. Okay, so token would be probably, let me zoom. So you could define token, what I say is the smallest individual unit in a program is called, or is known as, you can say, it's termed as token, or sometimes it is also termed as a lexical unit. Lexical, sometimes as a lexical unit. Okay. So how many tokens we have there in the Python? There we have some of the tokens, like let me write for that. So we have, if we write it as a Python has the we write it as the following tokens. Okay, so tokens would be like, for let's say, it can be keywords, it can be identifiers. Now what are these? We'll discuss today, don't worry. So this can be keywords, this can be identifiers, or identifiers are also likely to be said as for your, this can be names. Okay, this can be literals, or this can be the operators, these can be the punctuators. So dependencies. Okay, so these are a kind of things, we'll call it as your tokens. Okay, so we have all these things there. Fine. Any confusion might there, just save me here. Okay, let me save this one. This is your assignment for today. Will do. Let me start. Yeah. Okay. So now to get it more understandable, let me write a command, or let me write just a simple program, or we'll name it as a sample Python program. I'll make you understand what I'm writing. Just don't go for the logic now. Just try to understand what are keywords, what are punctuators, and all these things. Okay, just don't go for the logic now. Let's say for A1 in a range of 1 to 10. Don't try to understand all these codes now, because it's not very, will be not very good to understand now. You might have confusions. So let it be as it is. Just don't go for it. Print I. Let me do one thing. Let me give spaces so that I will be able to do. Okay. Now this is a kind of a code. Okay. Let me do one thing. Capture a selection portion. Let's capture it. And let's move to our PPT now. Okay, now I was in the token. Now let's say I came up with this program here. Now you have this code, right? You have these things now. Now, to understand what is a token or what is a punctuator, what are literals, what are operators there, what we'll do is I will describe it like, if I play from the current and I'll bring a pen there. So I'll say that these for or this in or these if, or the bold letters what you are seeing there. Okay, so this for or the in or the if, you could see these bold letters will be termed as your, yesterday I said, right, this will be termed as your keywords. All right, so try to make it there. So these bold green letters will always be termed as your keywords. Okay, now, okay, there is a problem. So in case of I, there would be A1. This would be A1. What I have written here, this would be A1 there, and okay, so there would be the A1 there. So it would be also A1. So now, don't focus on all this. I'm saying that these A1, what I have written here, and this A1, what I am going to print. Similarly, the names, particularly, these are nothing but the names I am taking. So it will be termed as your identifiers or the variables, you can say. All right. So these will be your identifiers. So what about the operators? Operators are nothing but which will help you out to do some mathematical calculations or any type of operations, you can say. So you will be coming up with these all. Let's say this, and let's say this particular, this is also an operator. So these are nothing but the operators. All right. So what about the literals? So discuss what are literals. Okay. So literals are some kind of data items that have a fixed or a constant value. Okay. So what can be a literals here, which are having a fixed or a constant value? So I'm saying that this is a constant value, this is a constant value, this is a constant value. So these can be my literals. Okay, but these are having some constant values. So these can be my literals. Understood? So what are punctuators then? What are punctuators? So if you try to understand what are punctuators, we'll give it as your the symbols that are used in programming language to organize a sentence structure. Okay. So what are the symbols we are seeing here? What are the symbols? So we can see this colon. We can see this colon there. Okay. And let's take this comma 2. So we can see these. So these will be your punctuators. Let it be PUN. That's all. So have you understood what are keywords there? So bold letters you will be seeing there will be your keywords. Okay. So we'll get to one by one each of the things. We'll get to understand one by one. So this is your, okay. So this is your identifiers. Nothing you can call add this as your names. Also you can call it as the variables you are using. All right. These the mathematic operators or any operators you are using for doing any operation. You do some of the symbols used, that is called as your operators. So for making a sentence, you use some data points and structures over there to make a sentence complete. You use some of the symbols again, that is called as your punctuators. Sorry. And the fixed or constant value you use are called as your literals. Clear? Moving ahead. Yes. So let's remove these lines. So yes, one more thing. If I write it like this, or if I went to my PPT again, so you can see now, if I just remove some spaces, okay, don't remove this, you can see that after this line there has been a space, and after this line also there has been a big space. So what is there? In this particular line, I have, okay, let me remove all these things. Okay, so what I have done is there. You can see just a space over here. This, let it be T. So here I am saying my T is equals to 1 tab space. So in the keyboard you press your 1 tab, it will come automatically here. Okay. Now what is this space? So definitely it would be 2T. So why there? Now what is the difference? What is the basic need of giving these gaps? So these gaps are nothing but called as your indentations. So we'll focus on what are indentations later. Okay. So see, you write a line over there. Every time when you put a colon after every line, automatically the next line you are writing will be shifted 1 tab. Okay, that will be automatically shifted 1 tab, and it will start there. And again, if you write a colon over there, it will get to shift 2 tab, because in one particular line, just consider this as a whole set. So in whole set you are taking one subset. Okay, and this in whole subset you are taking again one more subset. So you can consider this as an AI. So artificial intelligence, machine learning is a subset of artificial intelligence, and the deep learning is a subset of machine learning and the subset of artificial intelligence. So this is how we can deal with this. So you can see, if you use one colon and you use one particular statement, you will be having one shift, one tab, and you use two multiple lines giving the colons next to next, you will be having two tabs. These are called as indentations. Okay, so if you write these logical statements or loop statements, you have to use the indentations out there. Whenever you use this colon, you have to use the indentation, otherwise it will give you an error. So let's move there. So let's do with this A only. So let it be A. Okay, so what I am doing is that don't try to understand the logic there. So this is a simple program that I have taken in a range of 1 to 10 numbers. Where are the places if my number is divided by 2 and giving the remainder as 0? So just print all these numbers. Don't go with all those. Okay, so I'll be dealing with that. So those are your you have understood what are the tokens in Python. These are called as tokens. This combination of keywords, identifiers, and all those things. Okay. Now let's try to understand what are keywords. So if you go to understand what are keywords, we will try to write it as the predefined words or the reserved words, as I said yesterday. I said, right? So what I said is that keywords nothing but some special names or reserved names Python, right? Okay, so these are predefined words. You can also term is as that these are the predefined words. You can write it down, sorry. Okay, so these are some predefined words with some you can say as special meaning, with special meanings that you can say for, right? So it gives the special meaning to, let it be for a compiler or an interpreter. So in case of the Python, we have as a interpreter. It can be a compiler too. Keywords are same for the interpreter and the compiler. This definition is same for the interpreter or compiler. That was I'm writing it as interpreter oblique compiler. Don't misunderstand it with the that Python is a compiler. Okay. So there are several reserved keywords there. Okay, right? So if someone asks you what is a keyword, so it's a word having some special meaning reserved by a programming language. That's all, right? So here, yes. So keywords are nothing but some special names or reserved names that are already present in Python. Now these are some predefined words with special meanings to interpreter or compiler. That is all. Okay. So how to get all the keywords? Yesterday we saw. Instead of that, what is there? One more thing is you can do is you can just write on help and you can write there the keywords. Just follow up the commands there, right? So let me see if there are any type of problems. No, fine. So you can write help and then you can go for the keywords. Just run it and you will see all the list of the keywords you can get. So enter any keyword to get more help. It is saying enter any keyword to get more help. So you can write help of any of the keyword. Let's say you want to understand what this class do or what this except do. So I'll say except. So we'll get an information of the try statement, the except clause, and all these things. So you can get all these. When you write anything inside your help, you will get an help from that. So you don't need to go on the internet and search for all these. Okay, we can get it there. So you have a lot of libraries and package for that. That's why I'm saying it's a huge thing for Python to. That's a very good language to learn on. Okay, so you have got all the list of the keywords there, right? Manually, you can also write a code there that was import keywords. Keyword, and then you print the keyword dot kw list. All right. So if you need to see the code, if you don't know how to write this code, if you forgot to write this code, what you'll do is, let me do just cut. You can go again with the help of, now in place of keywords, write keyword. So it will give you again a description over there. It says that the module reference is this. Okay. So keyword is particularly the keywords from the grammatic.c. Okay. So the following documentation, you will be getting a link from the official Python library. It says the file is automatically generated. Okay. So please don't mark it up. So you can click over here and you will see that the keyword testing for Python keyword. Yes, anyone there?
Can you repeat that help command again?
Yeah, sure. So this command.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So anything if you ask for help in Python will give you a specific help. If only if you are writing the correct spelling and all these things. Okay. So you have written help of keyword. So it will particularly give you a keyword help or a keyword just information, a small information that these are things, and it will give you a link of a module of a particular official page of the Python. So when you click it, you will direct it to this official page, and there you can see this module allows a Python program to determine whether a string or if a string is a keyword or not. Okay, so keyword, you want to check whether it is a keyword. What you will do is you will write keyword is keyword, and you will in S you will be writing your string name. So what is string? I will go to it again. Okay, so these are the library of the keyword.py. Okay. So keyword.kw list, you get all the sequence containing of all the keywords. Now, what are keywords? If you go to get to of that, so it says the following identifiers or all the reserved keywords of language and everything there. So reserved classes of identifiers, what are literals? Everything is there in the site too. But to understand with a bit, okay, these are the things you can go with here. Okay, so we'll discuss all the things. Don't worry. Okay, these are the basic things. What are floating point, literals, and all these things you can just study on. Okay, these are the some of the characteristics of Python. Moving ahead, so description has given, the function has given. Even if you don't go to search on the net, you can just get it here. Is keyword contains a lot of built-in frozen set instances on. We'll be discussing what are the frozen set when we'll be learning on the sets. We'll discuss all those. Okay, so yeah. So the program was import keyword and then print keyword.kw list. So you will get all the keywords that is false, none, and all these. Okay. If you want a list of that, you can get a list of that. Even if you don't want of that, you can just go with this one. That is simple to work on. Okay. These are your keywords now. getting ahead. So what are the identifiers? What about the identifiers now? So we'll take a snap of it quickly. Today's lecture will also be recorded and posted. Yes, yes, sure. All the lectures will be recorded. So the module for a keyword is, okay, let's take this one too. So a module for the keyword would be import keyword, and then we'll come to something like this. So you can see now your keywords list. Okay, now we are moving to identifiers. So what are identifiers? So identifiers are the name given to the different part of the program. Let it be for the variables or the objects or the classes. Or you can say for the functions, lists, dictionaries, and so forth. Many of the things. So these names are quite new for you. What are the functions or dictionaries or list kind of things? Okay, so we'll get all these things. Don't worry. Yes. So now comes we to the what are identifiers. Okay. So let's quickly write this. So I'll be writing this one particular line and I'll let you know for that. So identifiers, as I said, are the names, all right, which you give, or you can say is given to different part of the program or the code. Now that can be a variable, that can be a object, that can be a function, that can be a list, a tuple, sorry, a dictionary. Okay, that can be anything, and so forth. You can write. Sorry. So it can be so forth for like. Okay. So there are some rules for Python identifiers. Okay. So there are some of the rules that are called as your name conventions for in the identifiers. Okay. So that name conventions are called as your variables naming. You can say, right. So we'll go to that also. So we have understood what are the identifiers there, right? If I write this as this was your identifier, that A, if I zoom it there, that these A, whatever I have used, these are names, nothing but the variables. So we'll get to understand what are variables and all these things, don't worry. So these are the variables for you. Okay, so we have understood yesterday what are comments. Again, I'll be writing for that. So identifiers we have understood, right? I don't need to write it again. Okay, so even if I write a simple program here, even if I write just a simple program, kind of that for x in artificial intelligence, or x in artificial intelligence. So you can see the difference when you write this indentation block, when you give this colon and print enter. When you don't write in the code, when you write in the markdown or NB convert, you can see, right, this is a markdown now, this is not a code. So when you write in the markdown, it will not get indented, or it will not get just one tab space. You need to press one tab and then you will just get just one tab there. Okay, so for x in artificial intelligence, print x. So sorry, print x. So now here my x is the identifier. Understood? Here the x, what I am writing, so I am doing it particularly bold so that you will have more focus on that. So for X in artificial intelligence, print X. So my X will be the identifier. I think you might be clear for that. So now you can see it's okay. It's probably the print is there. So now you can see the program too. So for X in the artificial intelligence, print X. So here my X is the identifier. So it will print basically A, R, T, I, F on all these things. Okay. So try to understand. Moving ahead, we go with the name conventions. Let's go to my PPT there of the Python where it is. 1 second. Yes. So we'll try to understand the difference between the integers, the floats, and all those things. Okay. We'll try to understand the maths and the numbers of the Python. We'll also see how we can just use Python as a calculator. Okay. Then we'll see the all the operators of the arithmetic operators. Meanwhile, we can see the assignment. If we get to solve all these things, we'll go with the assignment one, and then we'll see the variables and the data types. Okay, so before going to all these, let me complete the okay. So we have done the token. In the token, what we have done, we have understood what are literals, what are identifiers, what are literals we have done, what are keywords, identifiers. Now we'll see what are operators or what are your punctuators. Okay, we haven't seen literals. No. So let's see what are literals now. So you can term literals as the data items that have a fixed or constant value. Okay. So you can write literals are the data points, or not points, let it be data items having a fixed or a constant values. Understood? So you can write it for that. Okay. So Python allows very several kind of literals. Let it be. There are a lot of literals. We are not discussing all the literals. We'll go in detail when we'll start these literals. Okay. So we have string literals. We have numeric literals. We'll go with one of them individually. Don't worry. So we have. So the types of literals. If I write, let's say we have Python has the following literals. So we will have there the, let's write it as, so we'll have the string literals. So as the name suggests you, string literals would be the sequence of characters surrounded by the single quote or double quotes. Okay, so literals. So there are string literals. Now there are numeric literals. So we'll get to each one of that in detail further, not now. So I'm writing this as, okay, let me write complete one. So the next we have our as the boolean. And then we have some you can call as your very special literal name. So what are these special literal names now? So these are which is called as your none or tuples or list over there. So we have these as a special literals. Okay. Now these are kind of literals we are having. Okay. Moving ahead. So if we write an example of all these, so string literals may be like for you, if we write example for that, it could be an underscore, it could be anything under the quotes. That can be a single quote or double quote. That does not just have any differentiation between them. So if we try to understand the numeric, it can be of again 4 types. It can be a decimal form, it can be an octal form, it can be a hexadecimal form, it can be floating form, that is your decimal things. It can be your integer form, it can be a complex form. So let me write any numbers. Let's say we have written 1. It can be a floating form. It can be a complex number. That could be something like this, and a lot of that. Okay, so boolean will definitely will have only 2 of the values. That can be either true or that can be either false. Okay, you can make a sense of, if you want to make it more, you can write it as that it can be either 0 or it can be either 1. So true stands for your 1 and false for your 0. That's it. Now, when we come to the special literal names, we will give it as, let's say for the special literal names, you have none. Okay, you have tuples. These things are the, we'll discuss all these. Okay, don't worry. So these are some of the literals for you now. Okay, so we have completed. Now the next comes for the operators. If you see there, the operators and the punctuators. Okay, for the next now come as the operators and the punctuators. So what are all these? So literals, you can see, right, whatever I have written, that can be a string literal and anything or that. So if you write the operators or their literals, so we have discussed there what are literals there in the, where it is. So here we discuss what are the literals. Here your these 0 constant values, these tens and ones will be your literals. Okay, moving ahead. Now just focus on what are the operators. Okay, we'll write for the operators now. So in case of operators, we'll be writing it as the operators are tokens that trigger some computation or action when applied to a variable. Okay, so we'll, if we try to understand what are operators in a standard definition, we'll write it as at the operators, sorry, the operators could be the tokens that have, sorry, that trigger or that can trigger some computation, or you can say it as an action which applied, or which when applied to any of the variables. This is now. So there you have a lot of operators, arithmetic operators, bitwise operators. So let's write the name, how many type of operators we are having. So the types of operators we have. So we have it as the arithmetic operators, where we will see that these are nothing but some plus, minus, division, multiplication, integer division, exponential values, the modulus. These will be the arithmetic operators for us. Okay, we'll see that. Next we come with the assignment operators. So everything will be gone in the detail one. Okay, you don't have to worry for that. So the assignment operators will you can give it as your assignment operators as your equals to, it can be plus equals to, it can be minus equals to, these are the mathematical assignment operators for you. It can be multiplication equals to, sorry, multiplication equals to, let me zoom it there. Okay, so it can be like this, it can be division equals to, so there are a lot of things, I'm not writing all one. Okay, you have all these things with you. So you can have the modulus equals to there, we can have the you can say integer division we have completed. So these are some of the things you are getting as your assignment operators. Similarly, okay, we have written one there, it should be two. So similarly, we have the next as our bitwise operators. So when we come to the bitwise operators, we have and, we have the power, we can say what we read it particularly. Then we have this not statement. Okay, so yeah, these are the. Then we have some shift operators, right? We have these shift operators. Now these can be termed as for you shift one. These are your shift operators. So we'll get to one of them individually when we'll start the operators one. So today we'll be learning the arithmetic operator. And then we have some identity operators. There are a lot of kind. So the identity operators could be for like is or not, like that. Okay. So no, sorry, not or is not, like that. That could be an identity operator. Okay. Now there are some of the relational operators. So what are relational operators? Basically, which satisfy any particular relation between the variables or something. So we have relational. Oh, yeah. So there you get as. So finding a relation, we use this greater than equals to, that could be less than equals to, that could be not equals to. So there are things that could be. So we have particularly 6 type of, you can say, as your relational operators over there. That could be less than, that could be greater than, and so on. We have things, right? So we have logical operators. Now for these logical operators, we have and, we have or. Okay, sometimes we also use not there. Okay, so you can say it as there, it's not also. Next we come up with the membership operator. So in the internet, if you search for that how many type of operators we have, we will be getting something around 5 to 6 operators. That's it. Okay, that will be comprised in some of type. Like you will not get shift operators most of the time on the internet. Okay, you will be not be getting the, okay, these way you will be getting that identity and all these. You will be getting all those. Membership will be getting on. Okay, so some of the things you might not get, like for the shift one, bitwise you'll be getting every all those. Okay, so membership operators are in or not in. You can say that in or not in. That's all. So these are a kind of operators we are having in the Python, right? So these are the operators. So operators are nothing but the tokens that trigger some computation or action when applied to variables. So how many type of operators that can be applied is, these are the operators that can be applied, right? So let's give some gaps. Let's have some spaces over there. All right. Oh, yes, good. So now we are left with the last token, that is your punctuators. Okay, so we'll write it as the what are punctuators. So as I said, punctuators are a symbol that are used in programming language to organize sentence structures. Okay, so you can write it as at punctuators are the symbols that are used in the PL. Let it be PL, programming languages. Okay, let me write it short form. What is it? Programming language. You will be understanding it what is that. Okay, so that is programming language to organize sentence structures. So that would be sentence structures. That's right. And you indicate a rhythm over there, or the emphasis of expressions or statements of programming. You write all those things. So most of the time we get the common. If you write it as the most of the time we get the punctuators as, okay, I'm writing some of them. So most of the time we get it like that. So it could be an exclamation, or it could be like just a quote. It could be a double quote. It could be a where it has gone. It could be an hash mark, or it could be just a backslash. Sometimes maybe time parenthesis. Okay, many times a square curly braces. These square brackets, you can say. Okay, these are square brackets, don't consider these dots have came because we are using in the markdown. Okay, that can be or that can be sometimes for the at the rate, that can be comma, it can be a colon, that can be a dot, it can be an equals to sign. Okay, these are just called as your, okay, let me do one thing. So these could be your punctuators. So you can see any of the things here. This dot is not good. So that can be even your this sign, right? So these are your punctuators, you can say, if you want to give a gap there. So just give gaps to understand clearly. So okay, that is our worst over there. So these are punctuators. So here now we are done with our all the tokens, right? So we have seen the operators, the literals, the identifiers, the punctuators, and the keywords, and all these things. So any doubt in any of these 5 topics? Now should we start our code on to see the operators? All, any problem to anyone? I guess it should not be there. All right, it's good to see, no doubts. Nishant is saying no. Fine. Yeah, that's very good. Okay, now we shall start with our the arithmetic operators and all these things. So yesterday we dealt with the what are comments, right? So I'll again saying the comment here because let it be here in the one notebook file. And guys, you can just upload. I'll send you this file. What you can do is you can click here in your Jupyter. You can click in the home page. You can just go and click on the upload. Once you get any of the node file, you just click it on and load it there. Okay, so I have this node file. I'll download and give you in the format of IP and YP. Okay, you will upload it there and then you will open it. So it will be open something like this. Okay, that will easy to understand. Okay, moving ahead, there's some. Okay. Yeah, so now let's start with the comments over there. So this is your comments in your Python. So yesterday I said that comments these are some of the programmer coherent statements. Okay, so these are used to describe a simple as you can write as just one single line, that comments are used to describe a code. That's all. That's it. Okay. So these would be very grateful when you are writing a large codes around for 100 to 150 pages, as I discussed yesterday. So we make use, and the comments are of two types. Okay. There are comments of two types. So one could be your single line comment. The another definitely will be your multi-line comment. Okay, so these are the comments you are having. So that can be a single line or either that can be a multi-line comment. Fine. So what are single line comments? So single line could be this is your single line comment. So that could be a single line one. This is your single line comment. Understood? So if you run this, this is your single line comment. Now, what are the multi-line comments? So that could be multi-line comments, COMMENTS. So here what I'll do is this is your here and then the let's say multi-line comments. So this is your multi-line comments. Okay, now here I can write it as for it's having some issues. Alright, so here I can write it as I hope it is clear. That's all. So this can be your multi-line where you have more than one particular comment in your code. Now comment can be placed anywhere in the code. Okay, that can be used beside the code, above the code, below the code. Okay, so you can write, let's say I'm having a code, let's say I'm taking it as x is equals to 25 and I'm saying here as the comment can be beside the code, the comment can be above the code, meanwhile the comment can be below the code. So these can be done there. Understood? So comment can be here and so on. So when you run this, no output will be generated because we haven't printed anything. We just have run it there and we got to it. Okay. So these are your comments. So what I mean to say that I'm saying what I mean to say for a block of code to describe a block of code. Sorry, it's not block. What I mean to say for the block of code, why it is not? Yes. So what is particularly a block of code? So block, or what are the block of comments if you write? So if you have code for more than one particular line, you will say it is a kind of a block of code. So what is a block of comment? So same as for the block of code, we have the block of comments. If I have more than one particular comment, you say it as a multi-line comment or a block of comment. Okay, right? So comments are clear now. Moving ahead to the variables. So what are variables? Okay, we'll try to understand what are variables now. So we write variables as, if we want to write the particular variables, we represent variables as a labeled storage location. Okay, not getting to the bookish definitions, you can try it to understand as variables are nothing but some reserved memory locations to store some values, right? It could be like, let me come here, it could be, let's say if I'm taking it as variables. Now let me draw some of the images there. Just put it one by one. Now I can find it on if I just join these things. Okay, I just make it join over there. Okay, let's give these things a color over there. Let's give this shape as a light green. Let's give this one as black. Okay, no, sorry, this was an outline there. Giving any particular color, not any, just same, this is, can be anything. Define your ones. Okay, let these be the three boxes. Now what I am doing is I'll make you understand what is happening here. Now let's say this is having a equals to 16. Okay, this is having b equals to 20. Probably might not be seen to you. Okay, now this is having, let's say, c is equals to anything, machine, right? Now c is equals to machine over there. Okay, now what these things understand for each of them? What if I write it as, let's say, this a, b and c, instead if I just create a box over here, I say this a stands for 1, this b stands for 20, and this c stands for machine. Alright, so let's get it out of color with this. So you have A1, B20 and C machine. Now just try to understand that if I take it as a shape over here, I give this as A, I give this particular as the B2, and I give this particular to the C2. Now these A, B and C are having some different values, right? Some different values Also, they will be having some different memory locations, what I'm trying to say. These all are of different kinds. You can see these all are having some different colors. Definitely they will be of some different kinds. Okay, you have these variables. This a, b and c will be termed as your variables, where you are having this particular value of that particular box. Now let's suppose I am having a black box, that is termed as a variable a, or that is termed as a name a. So whenever I will want to see the value of the black box, what I'll do is this: I will just bring the value of A. So the value of A will represent the value of the black box. The value of B will represent the value of the yellow box, and so on. Okay, so you can find that this particular character, this particular thing, it's called as a variable, and that is having a value stored in some particular memory. That's why we say that variables are nothing but some reserved memory locations. So these might be having some of the memory inside that. Every particular be having their own memory locations. Okay, everyone will have their own memory ones. It's not same for things. Everyone will have their own memory, not the same one. Okay, this will have its own memory, this will have its own memory, and this will have its own memory. Understood? Let me give it a deep color. Now you can understand. So these all will have their own memory, not memory will be masked on. Okay, they will have their own locations also. So these are termed as for your variables. You have some reserved space for everything. Now no one can come and replace this space of A, and even until I just replace it, no one, if I write b equals to 20, b will not be located in the place of A. That will go only in the place of b. That is because it is defined in the b structure. Okay, so these are variables, you can say. Okay, so in Python, to create a variable, we just assign a name, to a variable, and then give an appropriate type. You just define what type of variable you want. Okay, what is the type of value you are storing in the variable. So let's say you just give it just by a equals to sign. Okay, so that is how we define a variable inside that. So that can be of different types. Variables can be of a different type. We can define the variables in very much different factors. Okay, so we'll go through all those. So I think variables are clear to you guys. So if you write a definition of variable, what I have to write it as? That it is that it represents the storage locations, or you can say as reserved. Reserved storage locations. Okay, and these are made to store some values. That's all. Okay, so we do this to store some of the values. So there we run. So this is your way. Now let's say I have written a is equals to the same there 16 or any particular thing, 16, 20 and machine. So let's write a equals to 16. Let's take b equals to 20. Let's take c equals to machine, and just run it. Understood? Just run it over there. Alright. So yes. So we have A, B, C, and we have some of the type of numbers, or let it be anything. Right. So what is the everything of a type? Now to check any type of or particular variable or something as a literal or anything, if you want to check a type of just a line, you can say, if you want to check a type of a line, what you will do is you will have a command for that. If you go with this, the help of your type, I think it should come there. So it says that, see. So if you go with to see the type, it says it just print the class type of these things. Okay, that can be called as the methods of your type object name based on your dictionaries on every there are thing. Okay, you can just go and read all these things. Okay, so here I need to write for the check for the type of that. So let's move this up. Yes, so this is for the type checking, you can say as. So for type checking, this is the functions of the type. So how you will check the types of that? Okay, so just you will see that of which type it is there. So I'll write it as a type of A. I'll print the type of B, and I'll print the type of C. Understood? So I'm printing the type of A, B, and C I have defined. I have defined A, B, and C. So I'll print the type of A, B, C. That is, it will print me what type of value A, B, and C variable are storing on. Alright. So that will print me that the A is having a class of integer. Now B is having a class of integer, and the C is having a class of a string. str stands for string. Now what are integer strings? We'll focus on that, don't worry. Okay, so you can see now these can be meant as for that. Okay, understood? This can be your variables, you can just write and you can print it on. Okay, so that have some different values over and various types of values to them. Okay, now this is called as your assignment also, because here you have assigned some of the values. So you have used an operator, that is your assignment operator, equals to operator. Okay, one of the operator you have used. Now going ahead, so if we come to see assigning values to a variable, so Python variables do not need to be explicit declaration to reserve memory space. Okay, you don't need to declare any data type when you write for it. Don't need to write it as something like you are writing a you can say as integer or float or any particular type. In every other language you need to sometimes define that this is of that data and so on for that. Okay, so we'll see the data types in the Python now. Now we'll start with the data types. So data types in Python. Now again, if I go to my PPT, I'll make it as, let's make so that can be data types in Python. So how many types of data types we are having actually? So we have something 4 to 5 there. So we'll draw it there. So Python supports various data types for you guys, right? So that defines the operations. Now these data types particularly define the operations on what every possible outcome can come, and it support variables and the storage method. Okay, so let me draw some of the data types. Let's say we are taking it as a particular line. Just take a smart shape, and it is my list of some numbers. So let it be anything there. That can be process 1, 2. Yes, just take this one. So we'll just write off some of the data types there. So you have a type called as your numeric. You have a type called as list. You have it as a tuple. Okay, then you have more. So this is called as your string, and this particular as your dictionary. Okay, so you have all these things with you as your data type. If you go on and study for the data type, these are the things you are having. So let's change all these colors. Let's make it good one. can be this represented as kind of this? Yeah. So this can be represented as that. So see, in the let me do it some sort of small. So these are your data types there now. Okay. So numeric are a kind where we'll be writing 1, 2, 3, and so on. Right? The numbers where we have the numeric kind. So we'll get to it and understand how it works on, right? So we have numeric, list, tuple, dictionary, and the strings too. We have sets also. Okay, where we missed one of that. So there we have sets too. There to add on one more. One more. There we have set also. Okay, so these are the data types in the Python. Now what these data types do actually. So we'll start up with the one of that is the numeric kind, right? So we'll start with that. So let's go with the numeric one. So we'll write it as the 4 and numeric data type. Now in the numeric data type, as the name suggests you will be getting the numbers over there. Now the numbers can be of different type, right? Here in the numeric data type, you will be getting the numbers of different data type, different types particularly. So you specify it as the it contains numbers of various types, right? It contains the numbers of the various types. So what could be the numbers there? So here you have the numbers as let be your number as your integer, which you will write as an int. So there you get integer, and meanwhile let me copy this. Similarly you will be getting, okay, that could be an issue. I think this is fine. If you run this, let's say, yep, fine. So you can have your integer. Similarly, you can have your float. Okay, so that can be called as a float. Let me zoom there. So that can be a kind of float. That can be a kind of a, sorry, that can be complex and even sometimes that can be a random number. So complex is particularly written as complex, and that can be a random number. That's all. So you can get the various types as an integer. That you start it as an int. For float, you write it as float. For complex, you will write it as a complex, and all these things. Okay. Now let's discuss one by one in the detail of that all these. Okay. So we'll start with the int one. Okay. So integers, if we write integers are, you can say it as for that the normal representation of a whole number that provides the number without a decimal point. You can consider that at your integers, right? So let's write for the integers. So we'll be writing integers as, let me write integers. Yeah, so you'll be writing it as any number without the fractional values or the decimal values. Right. Now any number, if I am talking about, it can be any positive, negative number. So any positive or negative number without a fractional or decimal value. So this is the part you have to hold on. So without fraction or decimal values, that is must needed. So any positive or negative number are called as your integers there without some of the values. So let's say we have written a, that is equals to 34. Let's say we have written b equals to 56, right? So this can be, let's say we have c equals to minus 98. Let's say we have d equals to 0. So these are not having any fractional values. These are whole numbers over there, and these have a positive or negative value, even sometimes a neutral value. Okay, so that are called as your integers, right? So integers typically kind of two types, you can say, for integers of a sign, that is a normal integer, and that can be type of a boolean also. Okay, so integers are of a type of two type, that is your normal integers what we have written here, and the next is a kind of a booleans. So in booleans, as I said, true will stand for 1 and false will stand for the 0 over there, right? So if you get to integer of a true, you will get 1, you will get for the boolean you will get false, you will be getting 0. Understood? So this is your integer, any number without a fractional, all these things, right? So that's all. Now let's talk about for the multiple assignments. What are multiple assignments? Now in case, what I have done here, I have written 4 lines and 4 of the values there, one by one. So instead of writing all these things, what I can do is I would have written it as A, B, C and D. Now this is called as multiple assigning of the values. So A, B, C and D, I can assign all the values of A and B and C and D at a time, right? So I can write 34, 56 minus 98, 0, one by one. That is 34, 56, 98, so minus 98, 0, one by one. So this particular step is called as your multiple assigning of the values. Okay, this is your multiple assignment of the values. If I just give a break out here and so this would be called as your multiple assignments. Okay, these are multiple assignments. Now you can print the values one by one. You can print the values at a time, A, B, C, D. So all the values will be printed out. That is, A stands for 34, B for 56, C for 98 and D for 0 and so on, right? So these are the values. Okay, so these are called as your particularly as your integers. How? If you check the type of that, if you check the type of the A, what you will get? It is a class of an integer. If you check the type similarly for B, C and D, if I write the type of D, if I write type of C as well as the type of D, so you'll get everything as a class of an integer. Understood? So these are the integers now there. So what about the floats? Let me copy this. So in the float, or particularly also known as your floating points, floating numbers, floating points. Okay, let's print it there. So float could be any positive or negative number with fractional or decimal values. This could be a float over there, right? Understood? So this will print your numbers. Even if your number is a kind of a integer, it will convert it in the when it will convert it in the float, it will make it in some of the fractional or decimal values. So any number with the fractional or decimal values will be termed as a float. Now, in case we can write it as E, F, G, and H as third. Let us take only E and F, but let it be G. So we'll take 32.5. We can take minus 33.4. We can take 0.0 and so on. So if we check the type of all these, if we check the type of E, F, and G, so what will come there probably? We'll be getting float, float, and float, so on, right? So this is the thing you will be getting on. That is your kind of a float. So this is a float, that is an integer. You have compared the value if you print your E, F, and G. So E, F, and G would be having some values of 32.5, minus 33.4, and 0.0. So then we come up to the next number, that is your float. The complex. So yes, let's print it on. So these are the complex data types. So what are complex? So Python represent complex numbers in the form of a plus bj. Okay, it represents the numbers in the form of a plus capital B j, always. So you will get the complex as an a plus bj value, always there. Okay, so these complex numbers are, okay, I have to write the definition. So these complex numbers are a composite quantity made of two parts. Okay, so these numbers are made up of two parts. So you can write it as the number with two parts is made, the number is particularly made up of your two parts. Now, what are those parts called as? The real part and the imaginary part. This could be your parts of your complex data type, right? So real part and imaginary part. So what are the real part and the imaginary part? Now you can retrieve as both, like let's say for a complex number, let it be z. So for a complex number z, the z dot real gives the real part of the number, and the z dot image, that is an imaginary, gives the imaginary part of the number. Understood? You will be getting those out there. Okay, so that would be imaginary part, and as float you will be getting it as imaginary part as your float, not as a complex value there. Now that will be a float over there, right? Understood? So Python will, in the complex you will be getting these. So what do you write as the complex? What do you write a complex type? That is, if you write a complex, if you write your j, which is equals to, let's say, a plus cj, sorry, a plus, let's say is having an a plus bj. Okay, so here So here what happens, your complex number z will be equals to z dot real plus your z dot imaginary. Okay, that is very again equals to the real part as a and the imaginary part as your b. Okay, this is your imaginary part. You can call this as an imaginary part and this as your real part. So this is your complex number exactly. So if you write it as a code, so you'll get all these things. Oh, understood? So let's write a complex number and see what there comes on. So let us give an example of a z only. So let's take z is equals to, now let's take two complex number at a time. Let's take a, not two, let's take 3 x, y, z. Now the complex number can be just with no real parts. That can be a combination with no real part, right? If we say no real part, that is the real part is 0. Okay, so that can be with the 0 real parts, so it can be like that 8j. Okay, that can be with some imaginary parts of 23 plus let's just 20, let it be 223. So 223 plus 56j, that can be 223 minus 56j. So these can be done. A 2.0 minus 56j, that can be like that. Okay, so I'm going to run this. If you now check the type of all these things, so if we just go and print the type of that, let's say we want the type of x, and I'm just printing the type of x. You will be similarly for the y and z will be the same. Let's print the type of y. So you'll be getting a class of a complex, right? So if you print x, y, and z, what is the type of things you will be seeing out there? That is your 8j, 223 plus 56j, and 223 of minus 56j, right? So if you find that, what is the value of print me the x dot real and comma x dot imagine. So you will be getting your real part is 0.0. As I said, you will be getting the float points. So real part is your from the x. So let's plot x first. So okay, let it be. So in the x you have 8j. Now your real part is 0.0 because as I said, you are having only the imaginary part, not the real part. So the real part will be 0.0 and the imaginary part will be 8.0. Okay, you can see 8j over there. So the coefficient or the something before the j will be your imaginary part. Understood? So similarly, if I print the y and then I print y dot imaginary, sorry, let me print first real and then y dot imaginary, and similarly I print the z and then I print the z dot real and the z dot imaginary. Okay, so I've done all this now. Now let's print it out. Let's see what comes. So when you run this, you will see your y as 223 plus 56j, where your y real is 223.0, and same for the imaginary, it's 56, and same for that, right? So I think you understood what are complex, what are the type of your integers, what are floats. Any confusions in that, please repeat from the multiple assignments. Saying to repeat from the multiple. 1 second, its power is off, my battery is not charged. Alright, so he's asking for repeating for the multiple assignments. Let me complete it, Adarsh. I'll then, if time we have, we'll just repeat it, because let's complete the class. You will get the videos, so don't need to worry for that. I'll be repeating it. So we got to understand the complex one. Understood. Now let's go and understand the last type of what I said. We were having some 4 types. We have understood what are integers, what are floats, what are complex, what are, now we understand what are random. Now these random takes a very good role in observing things or in keeping things. Now company uses, a lot of big company uses this random to generate random OTP. you can say random OTP is generated by the banks or by the companies when you get to like even you have tried for maybe we should have tried for that for the password reset code. Sometimes I forgot my password every time, so I try that. So in the password reset code, when you try, what happens, you get a 6 or 7 digit OTP. So how you get it, that how the machine generates an OTP over there. So this is just a technique of how random works and how the system generates a random OTP for you. Okay, this is a random number basically. Okay, yeah. So let's go for that. So if you write help, so you'll get random and you will see the random generations when you click on that. So you'll see this module implements pseudo random generators for various contributions. So that can be classified in subclass of rand range, uh, random.seed, random.getState. These are some of the things you will be getting in the random. So it can be random weights, set state, get state, random range. So random range starts particularly for the start, stop, step of all the integers. So we'll go with all these things. Random dot choice particularly gives all. So you can go and try to read all these things because I have written in your code. Okay. So what you do is when I give this code to you, you can go as well. I can think there comes here only. So yes, choose gives a random element from a non-empty set of sequence. Still, you can go and click on these links, whatever you are getting here. Okay, you can just go for all these things you have there, right? So you can just click on the link and can go in the depth with this. So what random will do, let's go to the random now, and then we'll work with our operators. What is the time? Okay, we have to move fast. So let's go now and study what are random numbers in Python. Okay. Now the random numbers, particularly as you can see here, the definition, I'm not writing the definition, you can see the random particularly, it generates some random variables. Okay, random, right? Some random numbers, it can be float or the type you give, it generates for that, right? So let's take an example. Suppose for using this random, first you will have to just import the random with you. We will have a special session for this random module where we'll read all the things for the module. Okay, so this is your random. If you write this command, you will get all the inbuilt things there. Okay, so from random, today we'll learn what is rand range. So you can write it as, instead of writing import random and then import from rand, you can directly write. So see what is the difference when you write import random. What happens, you just bring all the all the libraries inside this random module in this file. But if you write from random import rand range, so if you write this, that from random you need to import some of the things. So inside random you get bet variate, you get BPF, you get choices, and a lot of things there. Now how you can get this one, you just write after import, just press a tab over there and you will get all these things. So now we need to bring these are the things from the random you can get. So I need to find now in Microsoft you will be getting this question of the random one. Okay, they ask more than 4 to 5 times the random questions. In the 38 question set, they almost ask around 4 to 5 times the question based on the random, because it's very important. So from random we import rand range. So what is the difference if I import random and if I write from random import rand range? So the difference is that now I can only use the function of the rand range. I can't use any other module of the random one. because I have only imported the rand range from the random. Okay, so this is from random, import rand range. Now what I'll do is I will just take a variable, let's say it is a, and there I am writing a rand range of 1 to 2, 1 to 10. Alright, so what I did from this, from now, what are these thing doing? So from the random library I imported one particular random range. From this random module I imported the random range. Okay, and I have stored rand range of 1 to 10 inside a. Now you can see, if you see in the rand range where it has gone, yeah, so here as per the definition, what you can see, rand range return a randomly selected element from a range of start stop step. Now what this start stop step says, suppose you have given a rand range of some start and stop. I have not given any step now. So what does that mean? If I copy it here and like that, if I make a copy and let's take it from here. Let's paste it. So what it does particularly, that this random.rand range is a bolt. Right, and what are the more things? Alright, this was it here. Okay, that's it's fine. Not getting in much in deep of that. So you can see that the random range or random, let's keep a gap over there now. So it returns a randomly selected elements from a range of all these things, and that, like, suppose if I have written the range of 1 comma 10, that particularly stands that I will be getting the numbers from, I'll be getting the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 and 9. That's all. Why? Why till 9 when I have written the 10 also? Because this random will take, as you have given the range over there, this range specifies that every time when you will be writing range in your Python, so this range will specify that the last number what you write, that your stop number, your starting number is 1 and you need to stop it at 10. Okay, so the stopping number will take the value as -1. You can understand for that. Okay, so if you write from 1 to 10, you will be getting the output of the numbers as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. If you write for 11, you will be getting till 10. For 20, it's 19. For 30, it's 29, and so on. Okay, so and this is your step. I'll discussing about the step. Okay, so this is your that's the thing you are getting in the random of 1 to 10. So if we print a, if we print the values of a, so we'll get that a is having 5. Okay, so you will not be getting all the numbers of from 1 to 9. You will be getting a number exactly between 1 to 9, right? So any random number would be coming from 1 to 9. So whenever you write it as a, whenever you write a random, a rand range of any particular number, let's say from 1 to, again I'm writing from 1 to 10. Now that not be very much equal to a always. That can be changed. See, the same thing has been changed. I have used the same thing, random of 110, but here I got 5 and here I got 7. So that can be changed for any of the time. If I run it again, I get 7. Okay, fine. That run it again, that's 6. Again, it's 8. So you can see 9, but not greater than 9. Not less than 1 and not greater than 9. This is called as your range over there. Okay, this is how range works. Fine. So what is the start, stop and step? Now let's suppose I have written rand range and here I have written 1 to 10, 2. So I'll be getting a number I'll be getting a number 1 to 10, but in the intervals of 2. Okay. Now there I'll not be getting any number like for, let it be from 1, starting from 1. So if I take numbers from, so guys, just think of that we are getting a numbers from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So if you count the numbers in the intervals of 2, what are the numbers coming there? So you get 1, you get 5, you get 7, and you get 9. So you will be getting a random numbers of only 1, 3, 5, 7, because you skip the number by 2. So you will be getting the numbers between from 1 to 10 in the intervals of 2. So that step means that you will be getting an interval of that. Understood? So you will be getting an interval of that. So you will be getting a numbers from 1, 3, 5, 7, 9. So see, it's 5. Let's run it again. So it's 1. Let's see whether any numbers come. 7. It's 5. Where is 9? 3, 5. 9 is not coming. Okay, it's no problem. CK. Okay, so you will be getting a numbers only from the 1, 3, 5, 7, and 9 because you have used the interval of 2 there. So that depends on what type of interval you use. Okay, that very much depends on what you write. You can write 3, 4, 5. So this is your starting point, this is your stopping point, and that is your 2 is your intervals, or you can say as your this stepping point. Okay, these is now how the company uses these things. Okay, how the company uses these things out. So let's see what happens there. I'm writing a very small code just a giving you just an information how it works. Let's say you imported a random, and there you took a code, and the code is your rand range of some. Let's say I've taken some of the numbers. Okay, just I have taken some numbers there. So it's 336, 336. All right. So So what are these str and all these? I'll be dealing, don't worry. So here I'm printing it as just as a G of str code is your one-time Google verification SCITI verification code. So how it runs, if I run it, so it comes like this is your one-time Google verification code, right? This is like the exact you get in your mobile phones, right guys? So this is a very basic step. I'm just giving you an idea of how you get that. Okay. So it can be different for every time. Every time when you change your code, every time when the user come and change his codes, the value changes. You can see there was some different OTP. Here we get some different of the OTP. So these are some of the methods of like a bank generates a account number, or you get a Facebook reset password code. And what happens in the Facebook reset password code? So that is similarly just a change in the statement, that's all. So it says that this particular thing, that doesn't need str of that. That only takes code. Because Facebook gave ads your code is your Facebook password reset code, right? You get something like this. If you run this, you'll be getting this is your Facebook password reset code, isn't it, guys? You get something like that. Yes or no? You can write it. Yes or no? You get it like that, right? So this is a very simple thing you can think of that. Okay, and these are the basic thing. Like some of my friends asked me like. like they call and just ask me, like, what does Google use? So they ask what we use there in the Google. So it's like all the simple things. There are the languages, there are the people using different type of languages there. Okay, so it's almost about the experience you are having in the particular field of a language. So you just take one particular library, okay, and get a master on that particular library. So even if you are having a mastery on one single library, Google will take you. Any company will take you if you are having, because mastering in one particular library will give you a lot of information to work well for that company, right? So this is all about the basic needs. Okay, these are the basic. See, now student thinks that why, how we get these OTPs, what is the reason behind the getting, or what is the technique. So this is your technique, just one particular line. So you have generated your OTP and you are getting it printed to the user by using this, just a method of that. Okay, so let's coming up to the arithmetic operators now, guys. So sorry, it's arithmetic operators. Yes. So what we do in the arithmetic operators? So there is some spelling mistakes. So arithmetic operators are, you can say, used for, we'll be doing today this one only, used for doing some basic, you can write, basic arithmetic calculations. Honestly. So you'll be doing some basic arithmetic calculations in the with the use of arithmetic operators. How? So as I said, you have a lot of operators there for the arithmetic. So suppose you have x and y as your 5 and 10. You have x, y as 5 and 10. Now you want to add x and y. So for adding x and y, what you will do is you will just write x plus y. That's all. So you'll be getting, if you write x plus y, you'll be getting the addition of that. It is your 15. Right? You'll be doing x minus y, that is your minus operator. Subtraction, you'll be getting the minus value. You will be doing the multiplication. That's all. So in the case of division, when you want a, see, these were the integer values and you got an integer value as an output. Now in case of a division, when you write x divided by y, you'll be getting a float value, that is 0.5, because 5 by 10 it's 0.5, right? 1 by 2 it's 0.5 there. So to get an integer value of that, so I'll be discussing about, before going to the integer, I'll be discussing the typecasting, then I'll move to that one. Okay, so there you get x by y as 0.5. Okay, now what x to the power of y? So x to the power of y stands of that we are having 5 and we are taking to the power of 10. So 5 to the power of 10 could be probably, okay, that's great. It's 9, 7, 6, 2, 6 to 5, 6, 5, 6 to 5. So it was around, yes, fine, it's okay. So we got x to the power of y. Similarly, when you divide x, if you want to see the remainder divided by x, that is your, let's take it y divided by x. So when we divide 10 by 5, what is the remainder? Right, it's completely divided by 5, so you get a remainder as your 0. So when you write this, you will be getting the remainder as 0, because y is your 10 and x is your 5. So this modulus particularly gives you the remainder after the division. Okay, now these are things. Now we'll go to the typecasting and understand what is your typecasting. So particularly typecasting is a process or a method, you can say, where we change the type, or we change the data type, you can write as. That's all. We change the data type there. Now how we change it? Let's say you are having the number in integer. Okay, let's say we take some numbers. Let it be A, B, and C. Now let my numbers be as 23, 45.8, and 34J. So now these are the integer, the float, and the complex, right? And let's run this. Now, if you check the type of all those, what you will get? If you check the type of A, so we'll get it as integer, float, and complex. Okay, so the type of an A is integer, B is float, and the C is complex. Right. Okay. Now I want my float to be the integer. Now I'll be converting float to integer. So now converting float to integer, just you write a float, and you can, let's say for float, when I come converting, I'll write it as f. Now my f will be the float value of the integer value. So I will be converting this A, which is having an integer value of 23. So I'll be converting the A in float, right? And after the conversion of this, see, you are just using float, put the parenthesis, and there you will writing A. So the float of A will be stored in f, right? So what will the float of A? We'll see. Okay. So now we will be converting integer to float. So no, this is from the integer to float basically. Let it be an integer of f. So you are converting float to integer, right? So this is your float 45.8, and you will be getting an integer of that. Now let's take float to integer, integer to float. So there we'll be writing it as a float of I, because I is your integer and you want, A is your integer and you want this to be in the float there, right? Similarly, you can convert both at a time A and B in complex. How? You can't convert this complex into the float and integer, but you can convert this integer and float to the complex. Okay, so there let's write C1 complex 1 is equals to complex, let me write it one of a time, let it be C1 comma C2 complex of A and complex of B. Alright, so you have C1 and C2 for the complex of A and the complex of B. Okay, cool. Now let's run it. Let's see what happens. So I would now be converted in the integer of your value B. So what was your B? Let me print it again. BA. If you see your BA, B was 45.8 and A was 23. So we have converted this I in the integer of B, that is it would be the integer value of this. This will be the float value of this, and C1 and C2 will be the complex value of all this. So if we see C1 and the C2 first, so we'll get to know that C1 and C2 would be 23 plus 0j and 45.8 plus 0j. What happens here? See, now you have only the real parts, not the imaginary parts of the C. We have A and B as 45.8 and 23. So you can see this complex of A, that is your C1, the complex of A, that is 23. So you have only the real part, not the imaginary part. So imaginary part is 0 now and the real part is 23. Okay. So what is the complex of B? Similarly, you have 45.8 there. So 45.8 is the real part and 0j is the your imaginary part. What about the I and F? So if we go to the I and F, so we will see that I and F is having value of 45 and 23.0. So So we were having 45.8 and we got the integer value of this as 45 because we know integer is having no decimal points, right? So we got only 45 and it will remove everything from the decimal, everything. Integer of any decimal number will remove the decimal from that and will get the only the uh, you can say before number before the decimal. Okay, so you are getting 45 there, and the float of 23 is 23.0 because the float have needs to have some point with that. Okay, so you are getting a float of 45 sorry 23.0 over there, and I as your 45, right? Understood? So this is called as your type conversion. Similarly, you can convert an integer of 45.9. You can go and convert this float of, you can write a float of 12. Similarly, you can write a complex of 23. So if you run all these things, you will see that integer of 45.9 will be 45, float of 12 will be 12.0, and complex of 23 will be 23.23 plus 0j. Okay, understood? So in the operators, what operators we saw, that addition is something 15, subtraction is okay, multiplication is okay, division is okay, the exponentiation is okay, and the this is also called as power or exponent, we can say, and the modulus or the remainder is okay. Now what about if we want to find these, all were giving up a integer value instead only of the this particular 59 number cell that was giving a float value. So if we want to get an integer value of this particular, what will you use? You have another module, another operator, that is your x divided by y. So this is called as a float division or as an integer division. Okay, so when you run this, you will get only the 0, not the 0.5. Understood? So you'll get only 0 over there now. So if you have done x divided by x, what you will get? 2.0. If you do y divided by x, you'll get only 2 there. Understood what are these things? Now these are the operators right now, guys. Okay, so now let's go and see how input function works on. Suppose if you want to take an input from a user, what you will do? So to take an input from a user, let it be anything. So for to take an input from a user, what you'll do is input, enter anything. Let's take, we are entering name. So there you need to, let's write it for, let's give a variable name, and this name is equals to input, enter name now, right? So when you run this, a pop-up will come like for enter name, and now you can see star. This star is termed as that this cell has not been processed yet, no input has been given yet, it is waiting for the input. Okay, so enter name, let's write a name over there. So this is my name and I entered. Okay, now when you see your name, if you see print the name, what has been stored in the name, so it has taken this. Now if you want to see the type, what type exactly, when you take anything inside the input, what is the type you are getting there? So it says that it took the input in the string. So we'll deal tomorrow with this thing. Okay, tomorrow we'll be dealing with the strings and with the input ones. So I'll be giving you an assignment over there. Let me show you your assignment. You are having your assignments at A1, I think. So we have various things. I have done it for your first program. That is, you will have to do hello world, and just you don't have to do all these things. I'll give you, okay, you will have to complete this, your typecasting. How can you just do a typecasting of all the numbers if you want to convert this to particular type of all that. Okay, you have string operations, will do tomorrow. So I'll give you this too. Let me do stop that. These are typecasting. Let me stop it. These are your first program. Let me stop this. And your this particular, this one, assignment 1, right, for the calculate the length of a string and all these. So assignment 1 I'll give you tomorrow, don't worry. Okay, because we have not completed everything. Okay, so we'll give you assignment 1 tomorrow, and you will get that to particular files, this file and this file today. So just go and read all the things for what I have given for today. Let me stop your video.